Every politician in this country should take notice of New South Wales Labor leader Chris Minns. They should all take notice of an opposition leader who often agrees with decisions taken by his opponents, the New South Wales Liberal government. Instead of bashing up the government at every opportunity, Minns picks his fights and doesn't agitate for the sake of agitating. Wouldn't it be good if politicians could do something like that? And the nation's politicians should also take notice of this bloke because he doesn't mind taking on his colleagues either, at the federal level. And that's what Chris Minns did today. And it's refreshing. It's surprisingly honest. This is a politician who honestly and authentically calls it as it is and as he sees it, not along party lines. Today, Chris Minns heaped pressure on Anthony Albanese to reinstate the Commonwealth-funded $750 pandemic disaster payment. Minns called for a rethink from the Albanese government over the weekly payments after the federal government decided the scheme would not be extended.
I think there needs to be an urgent rethink of the $750 payment from the federal government for those who have been struck at home with the COVID-19 illness. This payment is probably the price that we need to pay in order to deal with living with COVID over the next 12 months. It's a difficult decision, and I understand it's hotly contested by the federal government, but we have to make sure we make common sense decisions.
How good is this bloke? And he's right, of course. He's dead right. You can't tell the country, oh, we're about to endure another serious spike in COVID-19 cases, and at the same time, end the policy of free rats for concession card holders and end a key payment to assist those who are forced to isolate at home with COVID. Because it makes sense that in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, we'll have more people who rely on rats and more people who will need that payment. It is simply not consistent with the way we've handled assistance and payments during the entire pandemic. Now, Chris Minns said he hadn't spoken to the Prime Minister about this issue, which is understandable. After all, Anthony Albanese has been addicted to living inside aeroplanes for the past 7 weeks. But given how Minns operates, you can bet he will confront the Prime Minister. He's not only refreshingly frank, he's not afraid to tell his opponents and now his colleagues what he thinks of their decisions.
I always call it, as I see it, in the best interest of the people of New South Wales, and I'll do that regardless of party affiliation. When we see a situation, a policy response that is not meeting the challenge.
This is what the public wants, not agitating for the sake of agitating to make a point, to score political points. Be real. Agree with the other side. Be bipartisan when you think it's necessary. I think every politician in this country needs to sit up and take notice of this fellow Chris Minns, because I know for a fact the voters of New South Wales are noticing him and noticing the way he goes about his business. And with the New South Wales Liberal government tripping up at every turn this year, the Minns approach is working. So much so, he is taking the once battered and once corrupt New South Wales Labor Party into a winnable position. That election will be held in March next year, and watch this bloke storm into power. It is a rare thing to find a politician who's not afraid to support his opponents and now not afraid to mark down his colleagues publicly. The public prefers that style of politics. That is a winning trademark. Take note of the name, especially if you're outside of New South Wales. It's Chris Minns. He has one hell of a career in leadership ahead of him.